Hello! I don't do this very often, to be fair, because there's really nothing been worth doing a video about. I'll leave that to other people who do it way better than me. I've got the time to do it. But anyway, a couple of things. We're playing Glasgow Rangers this evening at Old Trafford. I'm not going to go to the game. I actually did fancy going to it, but Glasgow Rangers. If we lose tonight, and we shouldn't really, but we're all playing at home, so we might. If we lose tonight, I think it might be a new low in my, whatever it is, maybe 58 years of supporting United. It may be a new low for me tonight if we lose against them, because if anybody knows, I've lived in Scotland for 41 years. And I've been slagging off Scottish football since the moment I got here. Just to explain the reason why, I had a bit of a resentment. I used to have an old football annual from 1971, I think it was. Probably before most of you were born. And in that football annual, it showed all the honours that we got. It really miffed me that it always showed a picture of Celtic. With holding on to the European Cup, and they were the first British team to win it. Fair dues to them, and it was a remarkable achievement. And it used to do me head in a wee bit, because I thought they wore rugby tops in my imagination. So I always had a bit of a resentment for Scottish clubs at that point. And then when I moved up to Scotland, that was reinforced, because I moved up to Scotland, I think it was around about February 1984. Way before the days of Sky TV and streaming and laptops and mobile phones and all the rest of it. And when I moved up to here, there was absolutely no chance of seeing any English football at all, because back then, I think, if you lived in England, I think we used to get one live match on a Sunday sometimes. I think it might have been on ITV, I can't quite remember. So you got maybe one live match a week if you were lucky on a Sunday. And most of us had to then just tune into Match of the Day to see anything that happened. And most games were played on a Saturday. And even used to play on Christmas Day back in those days. And I moved up to here only to find out that in Scotland they've got a football league with various different divisions, and all these names I knew because at around about 10 to 5 when the results came in on World of Sport, or the BBC version, you used to have a guy would then read out the results for the people doing the pools. If you don't know what I mean by doing the pools, look it up. So of course you get all the list of all the results going through all the various leagues, and you reach to the bottom of all the various English leagues, and then you started off with the Scottish League as well. So I used to think in my mind, my God, because the results came down in the leagues of being very good, and then all of a sudden you got to the bottom of that, and then you got the Scottish leagues, and I thought the Scottish leagues must be even shittier than our shittiest English league, because they're at the bottom of being read out by the guy giving the results, and they all had very, very strange and funny names. I didn't really pay any interest at all until I moved to Scotland, and then found out that unfortunately, you couldn't get Match of the Day in Scotland. Yes, this is true. If you lived near the borders, you might have be able to pick up maybe Granada TV or something, but certainly where I lived in Ayr and then in Glasgow, not a chance in hell. So I couldn't ever watch Match of the Day. Instead, I had to put up with something called Sportscene. And Sportscene still gets shown regularly on BBC Scotland, and sometimes my TV decides Sportscene comes first and Match of the Day comes second, so Match of the Day is on at 11:30, but luckily due to Sky you can actually then record Match of the Day that's getting broadcast in Ireland, England, or whoever knows, so you get to watch it at the same time as anybody else in England if I watch it in real time. But back in those days, Sportscene. So you'd have to put up with an hour of watching all these, teams I thought were, to be honest with you, complete pish, before you get to the bit where they showed the old English First Division, because the Premier League hadn't been invented at that point. And all you got literally was 6 minutes. So they condensed all the best action from Match of the Day to show, a couple of, literally so brief highlights. It was ridiculous, and not even the highlights from every bloody game played on the Saturday, because you had to put up with all these other times like Green at Morton and Partick Thistle and all the rest of them. But however, at that time, to be honest with you, Scottish football was a little bit interesting because, of course, in Scotland at that time, there were a few decent managers managing decent teams. You had, of course, Celtic and Rangers, but Jim McLean was in charge of Dundee United, and they were not bad as well. They were good to watch. Hearts had not a bad side as well in 1984, 1985, 86. And of course, there was Aberdeen, managed by none other than Sir Alex Ferguson. So at least there was a little bit of, you actually saw some not bad football at the time. And had to put up with it before you got to the last 5 minutes and hoping that maybe you're going to see a little bit of United playing that day. In fact, the only game I saw live, because Sky Sports didn't exist at that time, I believe, was the time when the BBC on a Friday night, when it was the league title decider, showed in real time. In Scotland as well, the big game between Liverpool and Arsenal to decide the league. I think it was played at Anfield. And of course, hilariously, Arsenal won 2-0. It was brilliant. And I was watching it with a Liverpool fan who was absolutely gutted, and I was in my element. I thought it was a great day. But that was the only live match involving English teams that I saw the whole of that season. That's how bad this was. And so that's why I really resented, the sports scene Scottish football. But in fact, I got sort of involved in it a wee bit because it started getting interesting in Scotland when all of a sudden, of course, David Murray took over Rangers and brought Sooners up here, and he started biting enough, just even hoovering up a lot of the best English footballer players. They had Gascoigne was playing, and half the England team were playing for Rangers, bizarrely. But at that time, I actually was supporting Hearts because everybody in Glasgow supported Rangers, or of course Celtic. And I thought, I'm not going to follow them, and I'll actually start supporting Hearts as something to be interested in the Scottish League. And I did, and I started to despise Aberdeen and Ferguson at the time because, of course, unfortunately, I think it was the last day of the season. It was towards the end. I think I went to the Scottish version of the FA Cup at Hampden Park, and Aberdeen, managed by Sir Alex Ferguson, or known as Alex Ferguson at the time, beat my team Hearts, and I was really miffed. And so I'm probably the one of the very few United supporters who got to see Alex Ferguson winning another trophy, not with Manchester United. So, however, luckily Sky, well, it depends if you think it's like, but anyway, Sky came on the go, and then all of a sudden you had the ability to watch some live football from England. Unfortunately, I didn't have a Sky box because it was too bloody expensive. However, round the corner from me, I did get to see quite a few United games, including the time that we lost the league to Blackburn, sitting in a pub, having to watch Blackburn actually getting beaten by Liverpool that day, because I was surrounded by bloody Liverpool fans and only wanted to watch a United game. And so it was only when I saw Match of the Day to saw how many chances we had to beat West Ham that day, and so we never won the league. So anyway. And during this time where, with Scottish football, I did go to quite a few Scottish football games. I went to Parkhead, went to an Old Firm match, I went to, and I studied in a place called The Jungle, and let me just say, it's no longer there anymore, but literally you didn't need to have, if you only had half a brain functional, you were allowed in The Jungle. I was given a pass that day, and I could say the same at Ibrox Park. There's a place called The Enclosure, and it goes exactly the same. I went to many games at Hampden, semi-finals, European games at Ibrox, because it was dead easy for me. I lived in Glasgow, and so I could easily get the bus to Parkhead, or even walk there if I wanted to, or get the bus to Ibrox or to Hampden, which was just across the road sometimes as well. So depending where I lived. So I did get to see a lot of Scottish football, and back then they were competing against some of the big teams in Europe, and it was good to watch. Another one I should mention as well is that at the time that United, there's obviously something happened on the front. What's happened here? Yeah, we know. That there's times when the United, the only time you get to see the FA Cup, this is before Sky again, in England getting played is if it went into extra time, because it got played exactly the same time as the Scottish Cup final. So that very famous time when Whiteside scored, I think it was against, it might have been Everton, I can't remember, in the FA Cup it went into extra time, the Scottish Cup final finished, and then the guy says, we're now going live to Wembley to watch the extra time of the FA Cup final with United. And I thought, fantastic, I'm actually going to get to see United play. And he switched over, and literally as we switched over, I actually saw Whiteside scoring that goal. Great day. So anyway, getting back to Rangers today. So but since then, Scottish football, as we know, has been on a steady slope of demise. All the money's gone out of it, really. Of course, Rangers, of course, had to rebrand themselves and start at the very bottom of the league and fight all the way back to where they are now. And they're still not very good, to be fair. I think Bet3 or whoever it is actually paid out to all the people who betted on Celtic to win the Scottish Premier League after they won their first match. That's how uncompetitive it really is in Scotland. It's been that way ever since Rangers' demise, to be fair. And so they're still not very good, and the Rangers manager is probably on the biggest shaky leg as the manager of Spurs. Of course, there's a case of I think anybody, if you're a manager of Celtic, even if you're the tea lady, could win a medal. Even if it's only tea lady, doesn't know much about football, could still win a medal if you manage Celtic Football Club. And you get so many managers who win trophies with either Rangers or Celtic and think, oh, I can take all my knowledge and everything else, go to England, be as successful, and never ever do, apart from one man, Sir Alex Ferguson. And so we've got Big Ange left Glasgow for the wonderful bright pastures of the English Premier League, and well, I wouldn't be surprised the next Spurs game he gets fired. Yeah, of course Harry Kane did leave, but still, just showing that you can just go down there and sorry, it's playing, and I call it the Mickey Mouse League in Scotland. Just because you win cups or medals or trophies in the Mickey Mouse League in Scotland doesn't mean that you can duplicate that winning streak when you go to England. Nobody's ever done it apart from obviously Ferguson, really. So tonight's game, we're playing against Rangers. Yes, they're a bit shit at the moment. Apparently they've got a massive injury list, but of course we are shit at the moment. We are dog shit. And just a little thing on Amorim saying this is probably the worst United side of all time. That's not true. I think since the leaving of Ferguson, this is the worst group of players to unfortunately walk on the pitch at Old Trafford. But it's since Ferguson left, but it's not the worst United team of all time. Amorim's obviously not old enough to have to. You should go back and watch some of the Dave Sexton years to then think actually they are the worst United team of all time, and he won't be probably old enough to have to face what I did, was actually have to go to school on the Monday, the weekend after we've been relegated from the old League Division 1 and then dropped down to League Division 2. We did come back the following season, but still that was a low. So yeah, the team is shit, and we can have to unfortunately blame Erik ten Hag for paying wads of money for these utter shit players. And unfortunately, Amorim is coming in wanting to play this formation, which either the players are not good enough to do it, don't understand it, and unfortunately we're open to exploitation by anybody who plays us. So maybe that's what the Rangers manager's thinking. Right lads, this 3-5-3 ain't working, and this is how we're going to exploit it. We'll try and do what they did and all the rest of the teams that come to Old Trafford and regularly beat us, because we only seem to up our game when we're playing Liverpool City, otherwise really we're pretty shit. So anyway, I just thought I'd leave my thoughts with you. I'm hoping tonight that we will actually beat Rangers in, to my mind, an inconsequential European trophy, which I'm not really interested in. But I still don't want to see us lose to a Scottish football team. I don't think I've ever seen us lose to a Scottish football team. Ever. So like I said, if we get beaten by a team from the Mickey Mouse League in Scotland, it will be a new low for me. See you later, and let's hopefully hope that doesn't happen. Bye bye.